I absolutely love Ninja Gaiden as a series, and I really like Ninja Gaiden 4 as a video game. I made a guide already for it. I made a video comparing Ryu and Yakumo, and I talked about my impressions generally on the game, which are very favorable. I think this is a game that is really good, and it is honestly much better than I expected. Full transparency. But I do think that Ninja Gaiden 4 have some issues that I think could be adjusted to result in a much more pleasant experience. And this is not one of these videos where I'm gonna say Ryu is not in the game that long or Ryu only have one weapon. I'm not gonna talk about stuff that is not in the game. I'm gonna talk about gameplay issues that are in the game right now. Stuff that could be enhanced. This game is still getting supported. We still have a DLC coming up. Could be patched to improve to make the game overall a much more pleasant experience. And the first thing I want to talk about is the time it takes from your death to you getting back into the action, which is far too long. For a game of this type, for a Ninja Gaiden game, a game where you're probably gonna die a lot, this just takes too long. Like when you get KO'd, the camera is gonna zoom in and there is this slow-mo and it's like snake, snake, and it's overly dramatic, and then you get that long transition and then retry, and then there is a loading screen, and everything you see that is on PlayStation 5, this is the version that I got to play, but it takes too long. It takes about like 30 plus seconds to get back into the action. If we compare it to a game that came out earlier this year from the same series, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, you bounce back into the action about 10 seconds or so in Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, compared to 30 plus in Ninja Gaiden 4. Now, when I played the game for the first time on hard, this wasn't really that noticeable because I didn't die that much on hard, but on Master Ninja, especially when you're fighting a wave after wave after wave of enemies, and it can be kinda bullshit, and then you die at one time, and then it just feels like a waste of time. Especially like in a game like this where you're expected to die a lot, I expect to bounce back into the action much faster. This would go a long way in making the experience overall feel much less frustrating. And I don't think Ninja Gaiden 4 is that frustrating anyway, but this will go a long way. And on that same note, another issue that I got is the checkpoint system and how they work in Ninja Gaiden 4. This is another issue that once you play the game on Master Ninja, it's gonna become very noticeable. So this game adopts an automatic checkpoint system where in Ninja Gaiden 1 and Ninja Gaiden 2 you had to find the save statues, the dragon statues, and you would approach it and then you would save, and that would count as your checkpoint. You die, you spawn back to that checkpoint, and sometimes during boss fights you could retry at the boss, right? That made sense. The issue with Ninja Gaiden 4 is that the checkpoints doesn't really work that way. Like I said, it's automatic. So sometimes you would go through an encounter and then you would find the store. And you would think that the store is the checkpoint because that is where you recover your HP, but it's not. You would then proceed a little further, and if you die, you go back to before the store, which could be really annoying, especially if you're trying to buy up some items, if you're trying to like deliver some missions or accept some missions. It just feels very weird how it's done here, and it could feel like a waste of time sometimes. Now, I get why they did it that way. It's because they wanted the store, once you approach it, to refill your HP again, but I think you should have done it so that it's kind of like Ninja Gaiden 2, where once you approach the store, your HP will be filled back for the first time, and then later once you approach the store that you had already approached it's just a save. I feel like that would have been much less confusing overall to have like the checkpoint system work and their automatic placement. It's not a super huge issue, but one that in some very specific locations would be extremely noticeable, and it's just jarring. It's weird that they really did it this way. Another thing that I find to be really odd is what happens when you are low on HP. So when you're low on HP in Ninja Gaiden, there will be like this blood splatter red hue all over your HUD, and it can make it really difficult to see, especially in a game like this where things can get very hectic, and especially on Master Ninja where one hit can take so much damage out of your health. It's unplayable because there are so many enemies and you really need to have a clear vision of what's going on. But that red hue thing they do, it takes way too much of the screen and it makes it very difficult to focus on what is actually going on. Again, prior games like Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, games that just came out earlier this year, didn't have this issue. I already can see my health bar, and I find it really weird that there is no option to turn this off. Like, the game have a lot of visual settings that you can turn on or off. I don't know why isn't this one specifically that you just can't turn off. And again, everything I'm saying is just like, there are no major issues, but they add up, and there are small stuff that could be changed to make the game again a more pleasant experience. Hey there, hope you're enjoying the video. If you're liking the video so far but you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I mean, we got an amazing team going up. Join the Mura's EX-Men. We even got like the Emma and Magneto combo, so you know we're gonna dominate. Excuse the silliness and enjoy the rest of the video. Another one that was kind of weird to me is the walls and running up walls. This feels very arbitrary. Like, there are some surfaces that the character will be able to run on. There are some surfaces that the characters will not be able to run on. Maybe it's because of the level design, a lot of invisible walls, I don't know. But this is a first for the series. I think with all of the previous games, if you had a wall, if you had a surface, you can run up it, you can run across it, whatever. This is the first game in the series where it feels very inconsistent, and it's not a huge deal, it's not a deal breaker, but it's also like one of these things that should make you feel more immersed and make you more aware of your abilities, what you can and what you can't do. And finally, and this is probably like the most major issue that I got with Ninja Gaiden 4, and that is how the targeting works. Everything I've talked about so far have been like minor issues, minor annoyances. This is the first one where it is legit an issue with the game right now. Which target your character select to fight or to attack, this is a huge issue in Ninja Gaiden 4 right now. Targeting is very finicky, it is automatic, it doesn't feel accurate. Sometimes you'll be attacking an enemy and then suddenly you'll find yourself attacking someone else. Sometimes Yakumo or Ryu, whatever, will try to target like a very far enemy. Sometimes it feels like I'm struggling to hit someone that I know I want to hit, and instead they will have a mind of their own. And there are some fights, especially like, I think it was like chapter 3, where you're fighting like the demon boss and there are lanterns, the first encounters. Yakumo was so insistent on hitting the lanterns and are not the boss, which was crazy. And sometimes it feels like the hits are magnetic. This is an issue that I never had in the prior games. Now, targeting was never perfect in the prior Ninja Gaiden games, I wanna say, but this is like me playing through the ladder, the staircase on Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. This is on Master Ninja, and I feel like I have complete control of everything. Where in Ninja Gaiden 4, I don't really feel that way. Many times, I feel like I'm struggling with the controls. I'm struggling to hit someone that I want, and instead I'm on the mercy of whoever Ryu or Yakumo thinks that they should fight. And it feels like magnetic, and it's like the camera is just pulling you towards that specific enemy, and the characters just want to hit them, and it doesn't feel very intuitive to cycle between the enemies. It's one of my major gripes with this game, and it's one thing that I hope will get addressed. I don't know if this game got play tested well or not, but anyone that plays a lot of character action game will find how the camera, the targeting, and the homing on the attacks work to be very jarring, especially at fights where there's large enemies and there are ranged units. It can be extremely difficult to target whoever. And again, on Master Ninja, where it's a wave after wave after wave after wave, sometimes that feels more difficult than it should, to be honest. And another issue, which is very minor, but it's something that I noticed as well, is iframes post ultimate techniques, where in the prior games, ultimate techniques had iframes on startup typically, and then there is some iframes at the end where you can't hit. Not in this game. Once you finish the ultimate technique, there is this brief window where you can't move, but you can get immediately hit by an enemy, which feels very random. It's something that will just happen sometimes, and maybe this is their way to discourage you from spamming UTs. I don't know, but it doesn't feel good. It feels random. Like sometimes I'm lucky I don't get hit, others maybe I'm unlucky and I do get hit. Overall, these are like minor grievances outside of the targeting. Everything I talked about is minor issues. They don't hamper the gameplay experience so much, but it is all stuff that could be changed, that could be adjusted, and would make Ninja Gaiden 4 a better experience and much more pleasant experience. I do have some gripes, some small gripes, like the training mode, not saving settings, and some stuff here and there, but honestly, the game ended up being much better than I expected. What are your thoughts? Do you have any gripes that I didn't talk about? Do you think it's fair? Do you think I'm overcritical of some of this? I would love to hear your thoughts all about it in the comment section below. I will be leaving a link to the Patreon, Discord, Twitter, and Twitch pages in the description. Thank you so much for watching and stay safe.